Welcome back. Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister Gaston Brown is leading the charge at COP27 for small island and developing states to be given funding to stave off the effects being felt by climate change.
Bavita, if Prime Minister Brown and other CARICOM heads have their way, Caribbean nations like Trinidad and Tobago could stand to benefit.
Ryan Beichu sat down with the Prime Minister this afternoon and he joins us now from Egypt. Ryan, I understand that Prime Minister Brown is making quite a mark.
Well, so much so he had a line of reporters from the Washington Post to Bloomberg standing outside of his office here in Egypt waiting to interview him. He also made some time for his Caribbean counterparts, telling me that he's confident that if not at this COP, that at some COP in the future, loss and damage funding will become a reality.
For nearly 3 decades, the Alliance of Small Island States, including Trinidad and Tobago, has pushed for loss and development funding. This as a consequence of climate change to be added as a COP agenda. After 27 attempts at the Conference of Parties, the small island states had their voices heard. And on Tuesday, Chairman of the Alliance of Small Island States, Prime Minister Gaston Brown, sat down with CNC3 News in Egypt for a one-on-one interview.
It took us 30 years to get it on the agenda. It may be a baby step, but at least it's the first step. And what we have to do now is to be unrelenting in our quest to ensure that the fund is established.
We've seen the talk about reparations. That may affect some of our very own Caribbean neighbors. Trinidad and Tobago is a polluter, major polluter in the Caribbean. Suriname, Guyana is getting there. That's a hard conversation for heads of state like yourself around the CARICOM region to have.
Yeah, well, you know, we do not see the issue of loss and damage addressing the issue of reparations, climate reparations. For us, it's about dealing with current damage.
Prime Minister Brown says small island and developing states can no longer foot the bill of recovery to a disaster they did not contribute to.
The issue of the loss and damage initiative that came out of the issue of having some form of climate justice. It is also an acknowledgement that within SIDS, for example, that we just do not have the means in order to transition quickly, and that we need new funding mechanisms so that more funds could be made available to assist SIDS with their recovery in the aftermath of a disaster.
And the Prime Minister spoke to us as negotiators were locked in talks on loss and damage funding. Whether they can come to a compromise at this COP is left to be seen.
With all due respect, Mr. Prime Minister, we've heard that at about 27 COPs. You know, we need to lower fossil fuels, we need to lower emissions. We've heard that.
Correct.
How important then does this new agenda item, loss and damage, how important is that then for SID?
It's very important. One of the issues affecting the transition into renewables is the issue of funding. And especially within SIDS, small island developing states, we just do not have the resources to facilitate, you know, that fast transition into renewables, and at the same time to raise the necessary funding to adapt against the effects of climate change.
For another COP, the Global South looks to the Global North for both attention and assistance.
Well, further to what Prime Minister Brown had to say, Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, furthered the CARICOM agenda this afternoon at a press conference calling for fossil fuel companies to pay 10% of their profits to what she says will be a loss and damage fund. She says this will go a long way in helping small island and developing states across the region and across the world. How far that agenda will actually go over the next 2 weeks is left to be seen. Bavita?